Spiritheory.003, wanting real. Well, I have some good news. God is real, and there is a way to come to know that for yourself. Video's objective. Within this installment, I plan to continue to set the stage for an understanding that has the potential to change what it means to be a Christian for you. Spirit theory, short proposal. Actively walking in the Holy Spirit, understanding one concept at a time. Key verse, Psalms 19.1-4 ESV. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. Day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words whose voice is not heard. Their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them he has set a tent for the sun. I hope it's okay. I'm trying to duck out of the way a little bit here. Cut the brightness down. You might not be able to see me as well, but I'm hoping it's okay because the sunset was getting pretty nice, and I was hoping to throw some in there for you. Blue Ridge Mountains. So I'm going to try to hide off here to the side of the screen. Let's see here. Wanting real. What's the purpose of learning about a concepts or ideas unless they actually relate to something real? You know, it's so easy to learn about ideas. It's so easy to learn about all kinds of theoretical stuff. But there's something. It just to me makes logical sense to try to get to what is actually real. What is the objective truth of reality? What is actually out there? You know, is God actually out there? In my experience, he is. In my experience, it's evident that he's out there. And you know, I don't blame you if that's not your current experience, okay? That's not what you have concluded. I hope to get into it quite a bit, you know. I don't blame anybody for being in any way that they are or where they currently think. You know, coming to the Lord really is kind of a process. At least it was for me. You know, as a kid, and I'm not going to go into my whole story, so I'm just going to tell you like the bare minimum basics for just like a couple minutes at the most, okay? We'll get to the other stuff later. But what I do want to tell you is, like, as a kid, growing up Christian, you know, arguing about wanting to wake up to go to church, sleeping as much as I could, having everything pretty much whoosh right over my head, having some enjoyment at the camps and stuff, you know, maybe for a week, once a year when we did that, when we could afford that. And, you know, as a kid, I did get to the point where I desperately wanted to know if God was real. And I didn't understand anything, none of theology. I didn't, you know, Jesus Christ is in there somehow. He's somehow God's son. And he did something on the cross for us. He died on the cross. So it was like, as a kid, I wanted something real. And the bottom line is nothing really ever met my expectation. I could be in a room full of people moved to tears, genuinely moved to tears, calling out to God, praising God, communing with God, and I didn't get it. I didn't know it, and I couldn't understand how it could be so real, how an actual connection to God could be real. And you know, I had all kinds of thoughts go through my head. I thought, well, maybe you know, I thought maybe these are just these people's emotions, you know, kind of taking them for a ride a little bit. or maybe they had logical reasons for believing in a God, or in my case, especially when I got into my early 20s and started for the first time in my life, thank God I had some friends who, I guess, they were at least willing to think. They were willing to think for themselves. And I hope to talk to them more about God, because ultimately some of those friends grew out of believing in God. But what they did do is they asked me questions that they really thought about, because I see it in them. They want what's real. They want the truth. Okay? And I did go on a journey in my early 20s to find what is actually true. And I'll tell you right now, I found God. I found that God is real, that He exists, that He's aware of me, that He actually cares about me, that He wanted to help me, all out of an expression of love. And, as a kid, I didn't get it. And a part of the problem is the expectations I had on who and what. I was thinking God had to come to me with some audible voice or some revelation. I thought that God had to prove Himself to me. I had all of these delusions. I'm done with that. I'm done with wanting things my way, where things have to be my way or meet my expectations. I don't want to be deluded. I don't want my pride to delude me into thinking that I'm something that I'm not, that I have something that I'm not. I don't want to just believe in ideas, logical ideas that I just believe in, and I just hold blindly onto these ideas, and I actually don't have any connection, a tangible connection where I've actually experienced God. Nor do I want to trust in some feeling that could be any random chemical process exploding in my brain, and these feelings are just a false emotion making me believe some random pieces of information that feed into my emotions. My goal and my hope was to come to the truth and actually meet the actual person of God, the actual living consciousness of God. And I'm telling you, it's possible. It's possible to meet God. And we put so many things in our way. I had put so many things in my way. And I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to think of myself as something that I'm not. I don't want to have to pretend either. How much easier would Christianity be for so many people if they actually knew that it was real and actually could just participate in what they know to be actually real, instead of so desperately trying to pretend like they believe that it's real, all the while holding on to this doubt. James tells us about what happens to somebody who's tossed to and fro, that comes to God with doubt. There's so much more that God has to give us, because God is more than just an idea. He is more than just a concept. God is more than just information written in a book. There is a living God who is the creator of not only us, but everything. He's the creator of all spiritual beings. He's the creator of all physical beings. He's the creator of all living creatures on the face of this planet. He's the creator and sustainer of all of us and everything. And He is willing to come to us. And in my search for Him, like somehow I had any ability whatsoever that wasn't from Him, I had to learn to just listen. That's all it really is. If you can just learn to listen, just give God the benefit of the doubt enough to listen and to give Him time to speak to you, and to see if somehow there just happens to be information that you don't have, that all of a sudden now you seem to be able to pull out of your spirit. And it doesn't have to come as an audible voice, and it doesn't have to come as some life-shattering
vision or some fantastic dream. It can just come as a still, quiet voice where the presence of God is with you. And you don't have to trust him all at once. He doesn't expect anybody to trust everything all at once. The whole point is to grow into knowing him, that trust between you and him to grow. But there has to be a point. If there's any trust that's ever going to be between you and God, there has to be a point in which you give yourself back to God. And if you realize that God has desperately, through significant suffering on his own part, he has given himself to you to overcome the mistakes that we have made. And as you're going to find out, I'm not afraid to think outside the box. I've had to think outside the box to get to the point where I'm at. And it's a little different. Some of what we're gonna go into here, it's a different approach. It's a different experience. I'm hoping to only share what he has given me to share to you. And I promise you, if I step out of that, I will desperately try to not only make the proper corrections, but I will be completely transparent when I do need to make those corrections, because there's always growth. There has to be growth. We have to realize what we have understood correctly and what we haven't. And I'm not trying to fear any information. I'm not trying to fear any questions. When we get to the point where we fear the consequences of asking the questions that we have, we turn the lights out on ourselves. When we get to the point where we fear the truth, we turn the lights out on ourselves. God is the light. He is the light. Jesus Christ expresses nothing but the light that is God and the life in that light. And there's so much more for us. But if we want something different, we're going to have to actually do something different. It does involve actually doing something different. And not only does it involve doing something different, it involves becoming something different.
In conclusion, God is out there. The question is, and it is an honest question, if you're willing to honestly ask it, do I want to meet the living God? How can you get an answer to a question you don't ask? Dear bride, James 4:5-8 ESV. Or do you suppose it is to no purpose that the scripture says, he yearns jealously over the Spirit that he has made to dwell in us, but he gives more grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourself therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. P.S. Finding the Lord involves looking for him. Only those that choose to look will be granted the option to find. Mark 4:23 ESV. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear.